Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Bobby Lynn Kekik, and I am the Director for New Student Programs. I'm joined today with my colleague, and I want to give her a moment to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Horn, and I'm the Assistant Director for New Student Programs.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives to connect with us during our first of many Falcon Live Chats that you'll have the opportunity to be a part of over the next upcoming months. Tonight's topic is Deposited, Now What? The Onboarding Experience at Bentley. So we're going to go ahead and walk through some of the highlights of what you can experience, what your students can experience, and what those expectations are from us. This is being recorded, so you're able to access this at a later date. We post all of our live chats on our Bentley Orientation YouTube channel, which you can easily Google, but we also have it on our website, which we will post at the end of our time together. You will also see that it is captioned. So if that is something that you are interested in utilizing, please feel free to do so. And then last but not least, we will try to get to as many questions as possible today. If there is something that we're unable to cover tonight or get to, please know that you can always reach out. Caroline and I are constantly working with families and students throughout the summer to help to ease this transition and make it a smooth process for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We hope this is the first of many opportunities for us to connect with you. So what are these next few months going to look like, and what can you expect and what can your student expect? So some of the highlights of our new Falcon experience are translated to a few pieces. One of those are task-oriented pieces that we need our students to complete prior to starting their classes and their experience at Bentley, and that is highlighted in our new student checklist. At this point, you should have received the new student guide, which I know is a little bit lengthy, but I promise you it is a wonderful resource to help to provide additional context and details around this process. So it's a really good go-to as you're navigating these next few months. If there's something that you just want to dig into a little bit more, that guide is going to be a really great resource. The next piece is our Bentley Beginnings online orientation, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but this is something that our students participate in June, and family members also have opportunity to view this orientation as well. It's really meant to take the information that you may have gained from your research on Bentley and through the admission process and really bring it into that practical standpoint of, how am I going to use these resources? What are these resources and how can I maximize this experience? It brings a lot of the Bentley offices into one platform so that you're able to access it in one location. The next big milestone is the academic overview and course registration. And that's a pretty intricate process here at Bentley. So we're excited to share that with you because we know that that's something that our students and families take very seriously and want to make sure that they can, have the best setup for success as possible. The next piece are virtual engagement opportunities. So something like this Falcon Live Chat is a way for us to bring a little bit of Bentley to you all. We know that our families and our students are all over the world. We're so lucky to have a global community, and we want to make sure that we can bring this content to you and make it as accessible as possible. We're also pretty active on social media, so we'll share with you what our social media handles are, if that's something that you choose to do. It's another fun way to stay connected with the institution throughout the next few months. We have a variety of family resources. We recognize that our family members are partners in this. Just because your student is choosing to come to Bentley doesn't mean that relationship ends and everything is just going to be Bentley. We know that you have been with them for however many years, and they are still going to look to you as a resource, as a confidant. We want to make sure that we can empower you with knowledge to help to support them through that. Now, I promise you we have many staff and faculty and student leaders who will be there to support your student as well. But I do think sometimes our students will still go back to that family member, support person, guardian, whoever that confidant might be for them, and still look for some advice. So we want to make sure that we can help to provide that for you as well. And then last but not least, we have an in-person orientation program for our students in the fall that happens right before the start of classes and really acts as an opportunity for students to get comfortable on campus. If your student is living on campus, move into the residence halls, be able to connect with their peers and some faculty and staff, and really feel confident as they start classes on that Tuesday. So with all of the programs that we're gonna discuss, and you will hear from us throughout the summer, there's a few goals that we really try to keep in mind. And those are really centered on our community, values, academics, engagement, and traditions. Anytime that we are hosting a program, sending out communications, our newsletters, these are really the goals that we're keeping in mind to ensure that we can layer in information for you and your students to feel comfortable and informed throughout this process. So whether that is making sure that students are feeling comfortable with the university setting, interacting with the community, we know virtually at first, but then being able to bring our students to campus and hopefully our families at some point as well. We also want to make sure that our students understand their rights and responsibilities as members of the community. How can they be successful and thrive in this new environment? Of course, students are coming to Bentley for academics, and we have those top-notch academics, and we want to make sure that students know what are the resources that are going to help them to succeed. For some students, they may have gone through high school and never even had to worry about studying, and they were successful. But the university setting might feel a little bit different for them, and there's many resources that are there to help to aid that transition and help to support students. So we want to make sure that you and your students are aware of that. We also want to make sure that they're able to engage in social and educational and cultural experiences. There's so much that happens in and outside of the classroom, and really making sure that students can make the most of this experience is something that we want to encourage and empower them to do. And last but not least, being a part of the Bentley community, an institution that's over 100 years old, there's so much, tradition to that. And we want our students and our families to really see what is your place and piece and chapter of this Bentley history. So these are some of the goals that we really try to weave into the work that we do with you all and with our students throughout these next few months. So that first piece, that first milestone that I referenced at the start was the new student checklist. So this is that more tasky piece where we're asking people to complete some of these really important steps to be able to prepare for that start of the semester. So these tasks can be found in the new student guide, which I referenced. That guide was emailed to students. It's available on our website. And if your contact information, if we have your contact information, it was also sent to you as well. It's also on the Students Bentley Connect portal, and that portal is where they submitted all of their admission information, financial aid information. So that should look familiar to them. That's the same spot that they will go to access this new student information. One of the big questions that we are getting from students, or will get from students as they start the process, is, I need my Bentley email in order to access these tasks. How do I do it? And so we wanted to share that with you in case your student might have asked you that same question. So the first piece is that students have to sign their technology ethics agreement. So this agreement actually pops up as soon as students deposit. So some of your students may have completed this task a few months ago. For some students, they may have deposited but missed that task. We understand that it is a busy time for everyone and for our traditionally aged students, they're wrapping up their high school career and there's a lot of things that are happening for them. And so we understand that and completely respect that. And in order to start some of these tasks, we will need folks to sign that ethics agreement. So if your student is saying, oh, I don't have my email yet, what should I do? They can log right into that Bentley Connect portal, sign that technology ethics agreement, and then that will generate their email to be created. And then within 2 business days, they'll receive instructions of how to set that up. One other piece that we continue to remind folks of, and this is really important, especially as some people will start wrapping up their high school experience, is if your student created their account in Bentley Connect with their high school email or an email that will no longer be accessible in the next few months, what we encourage them to do is log into their Bentley Connect portal and change that email. Now they can change it to a personal email. They can also, once they have their Bentley email set up, change it to their Bentley email. And we really do encourage a lot of students to do that because then they only have to remember one login. They're not having to remember multiple. It just helps it to run a little bit smoother for folks. So a big piece with that is sign the technology ethics agreement, get that email within 2 business days, set it up and make sure that the email that's on file in Bentley Connect is either a personal email that will not go away in a few months, or they update it to their Bentley email. We're going to go through what some of those checklist tasks are. Now, this looks like a lot, but Caroline and I are going to walk through and explain some of these pieces. Also, in that new student guide that I referenced, there's a lot more detail about all of these tasks. So please know that the new student guide is a great resource to dig into this a little bit more. And then the other piece is that when your student logs into their Bentley Connect portal, they will actually have a checklist that shows up for them where they're able to go ahead and just click those links directly to be able to complete those tasks. All right, so let's talk about some of them. So as I mentioned, that first piece is the technology ethics agreement. We have to make sure that students are signing that, getting those email instructions, and then setting up that account. That information is going to be essential to be able to complete these next few tasks. We then ask that you review the new student guide. Again, it has really great resources. We know it's a dense guide, but it is really helpful to be able to navigate this process. The next pieces will really be coming up in June. This is where your student will start to see some of these initial deadlines. So that first deadline that will be coming up is completing their critical reading and writing essay. So this is an essay that will feel similar to what they will experience once they are here in their writing course at Bentley. So it's meant for the student to review and be able to respond to the prompt. This will help the writing faculty to choose which level, which type of writing course your student should be in. And there's all different options with that, but our writing faculty are wonderful and they'll work with your student to make sure that they're placed in the appropriate area. The next piece is our math selection survey. So this will become available on June 5th for students, and then they'll go in, they'll fill it out. We just ask that they complete it by the 12th. This is not an assessment where they're having to complete math problems or anything like that. This is really meant for them to be able to input information around what math courses have they taken, what are they anticipating to study while they're at Bentley, and then it will populate out some different options for them to consider. With both of these pieces, it's important to note, and we're going to talk a little bit more about course registration and what that preparation looks like, but regardless of what options are suggested for students to register for, they will have access in July to connect with the faculty who coordinate both of these programs. So if your student maybe, gets a placement where they feel like, oh, actually, I don't know if this suits my skill set, they'll be able to connect with a faculty member to be able to talk through that. And so please know that if your student gets that information and they feel like they might want to be or need to be placed in a different area, then they'll be able to work with staff on that. The next piece is the health immunization and records. So this is something that is a little bit more tedious, and sometimes students will connect with a parent or family member support person to help to coordinate this. I know personally as a grown adult that healthcare can be a bit tricky, so I would be completely understandable if a new student was connecting with a family member on how to submit that. That is something that family members should have received an email about that end of last week, and with the health portal being open. So please make sure that you are taking a look or encouraging your student to take a look at that if you are trying to be a little bit more hands-off. There are definitely a few pieces that we want to make sure that they're getting ahead of, because that deadline is on June 15th. Now, we understand that depending on where students are coming from, you may not have the same access to some immunizations. And so the health center will work with students to be able to provide some of those immunizations upon arrival to Bentley. So please know if there is something that you might not have access to, there is support. I would just encourage you to reach out to the health center so that way they can be prepared for that. Next big piece is our housing and meal plan contract and application. So that for those students who are planning to live on campus, or are hoping to live on campus tomorrow, students will receive information about the housing and meal plan portal being open. So at this point, what we ask students to do is go in and to sign that contract to demonstrate that you do plan to live on campus and that you do want to be living there. They'll also fill out a preference form that provides opportunity to give some insight into, who are you, what's your lifestyle, what are your preferences, and then that way that helps to be able to connect people and pair people up to be roommates. We have another live chat that will be happening in June that will dig into much more detail about what it is to live on campus and what some of those pieces are. But one question that we do typically get is if somebody, say, is planning to come to Bentley and knows of someone that they want to be a roommate, want to live together with, then what we have them do is that each person would have to put each other's names on that preference form. If only one person does, that will not guarantee that those folks will be able to live together. So please make sure that if your student is interested or knows of someone that they might want to live with, all parties need to make sure that they are putting their names on it. Like I said, we do have a live chat coming up in June that will go into much more detail, but just wanted to give a little bit of insight there. The next piece is completing online orientation. That will go live June 1st, and then we ask students to complete that by the 29th. On June 26th, students will be able to receive their registration prep videos. This will be a series of videos that will give students information and insight into the academic overview, how to utilize these scheduling software, and really just give details into what students can expect. And Caroline will cover a little bit more about that, but that will be available starting June 26th. We just ask students to review that before the registration process. And the last piece is that we invite students to participate in an annual survey called BESSY, and it's an opportunity, it's actually a national survey, and it's an opportunity for us to gather expectations that our students have, and then we're able to use that information to inform best practices for faculty and staff when your students come to Bentley. So if they're hearing anything about that BESSY survey, please do encourage them to complete that. So that way we have the correct information to make the best experience possible for them. So I'm going to pause and turn it over to Caroline to share the rest of these checklist items.
Sure. So our first checklist item for July is for students to submit their photo for their Falcon card, which is their university ID that will help them to get into our dining halls, our residence halls. So it is important for them to upload that photo. For the second task, they will participate in optional advising and register for fall courses at the end of July. So on July 24th and July 26th. For mid-July, their student bill will be presented to them, so you will receive more information on that. And then they will receive their housing assignment and roommate information at the end of July. So they'll find out what hall they're living in, who their roommates are, and begin to start planning that piece of their experience. In August, they will pay their student bill by August 7th. You can enroll or waive your health insurance by that date as well. And then completing their self-guided learning courses. We have one on alcohol, we have one on DEI. And so some of these courses will be due on August 28th. And then really at the end of August is when new student move-in and orientation takes place. So students will be able to move in on August 31st, and orientation will run through September 4th. And we do have a few different pre-orientation programs for students to participate in through application processes. So the Mosaic experience will take place through August 28th through the 30th. The Defined Community Program through the residence halls will take place August 29th and 30th. And then we will be having an international student welcome and orientation for all of our international students beginning on August 30th. And this will run through our orientation program on September 4th. So one piece of the onboarding process is our online orientation. And so we call this Bentley Beginnings, and it is an online program intended to introduce you to the Bentley community. It includes various resources, information, and announcements from all different campus resources to really start your Bentley experience. It allows you to keep track of all of the various new student tasks from that checklist. And it is important to complete this online orientation before registering for classes. So for new student registration, there will be various pre-registration videos provided by academic services that will have an academic overview and helpful information for students to really feel prepared for course registration on June 26th. So they will really have videos that are short 5-minute videos to really explain all the different components of course registration for the students. So if they are unsure of one small piece of it, they could go back to that video and find out a little bit more. There will also be optional advising support for students in July prior to registration. So if they have any questions specific to the courses that they are taking, they can connect with staff during that time. And then the important dates for all of our students, for transfer students, registration will take place on July 24th. For first-year students, registration will take place on July 26th. And then we will have a space during the orientation program for students to ask any questions about courses right before classes start on September 1st. We do have various opportunities for students to really start connecting with each other throughout this summer. So our social media handle is at Welcome Falcons. We have different pieces on our Instagram page that we post weekly. So there are different things such as Tech Tip Tuesdays, Where in the World Wednesdays, and Baby Falc Fridays. So all of these pieces are designed to help students learn a little bit more about Bentley throughout the summer. Starting in June, we will have new Falcon newsletters, And so these newsletters have the upcoming deadlines information. It has the checklist info. It has upcoming events for students to participate in. And then just some little, like short little brief summaries about the different departments and how students can start getting connected to Bentley. And then we do have virtual events for students to connect with our orientation team members and their peers. So our first event will take place on June 7th and will be Kahoot and a roommate mixer with the Res Center. So they'll be able to connect more with the residence directors and residential life staff, while also just connecting with each other and playing a trivia game. On July 12th, we will have Bentley Bingo. Bingo is a big tradition on campus, and so we hope that students will participate in their first Bentley Bingo throughout the summer. We'll have Pop Trivia on August 9th, and then we will wrap up these social events with Ask a Stuco, so asking our student coordinators who are part of the orientation team any questions that they have before moving on to campus.
Wonderful. So we've spoken a lot about the different opportunities and some of the tasks for your students. We wanted to share a little bit about what can you expect as parent and family members, and making sure that we can help to provide different resources and educational opportunities so that you feel comfortable in supporting your student and are knowledgeable when they are either talking about the process now prior to arrival, or once they get to campus and they start experiencing all that Bentley has to offer. So a few of those pieces, as I mentioned, the new student guide, I know I've said that many times, but it is such a good go-to resource, and many family members have expressed that it's been so helpful to just be able to have that singular source where they can just go to and find some of this information. So highly encourage you to make sure that you access that. The next piece, and you'll see that we will have some of these opportunities live like we have now with this session, but then we will have different educational opportunities that are pre-recorded. And we really try to have a blend because, again, we recognize that we have family members all over the world, and we will never find one time that is going to work for every single family member, whether that is due to different time zones, work schedules, taking care of kids, families, parents. So we want to make sure that we can make this information accessible to you. And whatever way you choose to engage, if you choose to participate in all of it or some of it, we hope that it is helpful to you in just getting a better sense of what is Bentley, what are these resources, and how can your students succeed. So you will see that we have a variety of Falcon Live chats throughout the summer. For us, this is really, kind of taking, at some institutions, they might have a summer orientation programs. At Bentley, we don't have that. Our program for the students takes place in the fall. And so to try to mirror some of those sessions that families may take part in over summer programs, we offer this live chat series as a way to bring a little bit of Bentley, the variety of offices and resources that you might need to connect with, to you. And if you can't view it live, no worries. We record all of these sessions and post them to our YouTube channel, so that way you can view it at your availability, and then we provide contact information for the staff who you can connect with. So some of those other pieces are our student affairs video series that it lives on our orientation website, and that is a series of pre-recorded, really quick videos that just give some insight into some of the support resources that exist for your students, so that you have some insight into, what does our, what is Title IX at Bentley? What is campus safety at Bentley? What is the care team at Bentley? What are the opportunities to get involved? What is our multicultural center? There's so many different resources that, some of this These titles and these offices might look similar on campuses. For some folks, this is your first experience with the university setting. And so we want to make sure that we can provide this so that you have those resources and knowledge when your student is reaching out. As Caroline mentioned, Bentley Beginnings online orientation is a wonderful resource for our students. They have to do it, but you have the access to also view it so that you're able to, again, be informed of what your students are seeing. You can just go and log in and create a guest account and see that same content. We will also send monthly newsletters to our family members. That first one will come out in June. So please, take a quick glance at that. It's it's not a super long newsletter, but it's really impactful of what are the deadlines coming up for your student, what are some resources that they should be aware of, and how can you stay connected to Bentley. You'll continue to see our live chat series and our newsletter continue throughout the summer. We recognize that not all family members can join their student on that move-in day, that first day of our orientation. And so that's why we try to provide these resources throughout the summer so that people are able to have that same access. Now, if you do find yourself able to travel with your student, there are a few pieces that you would have access to. If your student is participating in the Mosaic program, which is a program for our students of color, there is some family programming that happens on that first day. And so if your student is participating in that, you'll gain more information about that. If your student is living in a defined community, there is a welcome reception that families are welcome to join. For our international students, if you are traveling with your student, there is a welcome reception that evening. And then for everyone else, that the bulk of the rest of our students who are moving in on that August 31st date, again, if you're joining your student, we will have a welcome lunch on that day. We'll have a vendor fair that will be inclusive of some of our vendors that work really closely with Bentley, some of our departments that we want to make sure that we can get in front of our students and families all in one location. And then we also invite families to stick around for our convocation ceremony, which is the official academic kickoff to the year. We do stream that. So if you are unable to join your student on campus that day or need to travel back before that convocation ceremony, we do stream that and record that so that way people can view that at a time that's convenient for them. And the last piece is that we will host a workshop for our family members. So once your students go through orientation, about 2 weeks into the start of the semester, and we'll share that invite with you all as we get closer, we will host a virtual workshop where we bring in our Vice President for Student Affairs. We bring in somebody from Academic Services. We talk about some of those resources, give you some inside scoop of what your students experienced during orientation. And then we'll typically have some current students who will be able to speak to what they experienced in their first year and answer any questions that you might have now that your student has started to get settled on campus. So please look out for that invitation. It's a really great way to, as you're going through this process, you're going to get a lot of information. Once your student starts, it's a great reconnection opportunity to say, okay, now these are the questions that I have. What can I make sure that I get answered now to feel comfortable with my student being at Bentley and starting? And then the last piece is if you are close enough or able to travel, we invite our families to come back for our Falcon weekend celebration, which takes place in October. And it's a really fun way for families and alumni and current students and faculty and staff to come together and celebrate being a part of the Bentley community. So these are just a few ways that we really work to make sure that you have that information, that you're feeling supported, and that you have those connections to Bentley. By engaging or watching the recordings of the live chats, you'll learn even more information about ways to stay connected. We have a wonderful alumni and family engagement team who works to keep families connected throughout the year, whether that's through a parent book club or parent volunteer opportunities. So there's a lot of other ways to really stay connected to this community. But I really want to hit home those Falcon Live chats, because that's going to be a way for you to, again, have a little bit of Bentley and be able to ask some of those questions live. So I'm going to turn it back over to Caroline to talk about what some of those other topics are that we're going to have throughout the summer, and then give you some insight into what your student can expect during our orientation program. And then we're going to open it up to some questions.
All right, so our first Falcon Live Chat on June 13th is with the residential center team. So they'll talk a little bit more about what is it like to live on campus at Bentley. So they'll talk more about the housing agreement, they'll talk more about assignments, what it's like to live on campus. On June 20th, we will talk a little bit more about funding and financing your students' education with the Student Financial Services team. On June 27th, we'll have the Academic Services group come in and talk a little bit more about supporting your students' academic success. So if they have any questions about majors or minors or course registration, that will be a space for them to ask questions there. On July 25th, we will have the Health Center and the Counseling Center come in and talk about what is it like for well-being on campus and being a healthy Falcon on campus. On August 1st, we'll have another session about orientation. So we'll talk more about getting started at Bentley, talking more about all of our various pre-orientation programs, the full orientation program, and more. On August 8th, we will have community expectations at Bentley. So having our student conduct team come in and talk about what does it look like to follow our community expectations and be a Bentley student. And then on August 15th, we will have members of the student programs and engagement team and alumni and family engagement team come in to talk about student and family involvement on campus. And then for new student orientation, we will have our self-guided learning courses pilot in early August, and then they will be due August 28th. So right before students begin orientation, we will ask that they complete those self-guided learning courses. On August 27th, we will have an orientation meet and greet where all students will be able to connect with their orientation groups and orientation leaders, and then ask any last minute questions that they have prior to moving in and really starting orientation. On August 30th, we will have our international students move in for their welcome and orientation program. And then Thursday, August 31st through Monday, September 4th is when the full new student orientation program will run.
Wonderful. So I know I personally talked a lot. We just shared a lot of information. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I want to open it up to questions that folks have, whether it's about the content that we covered or other questions that might be top of mind for you. All right, so let's see our first question. So the first question is there a summary of all the target dates to complete all the activities as part of orientation? So what I'm thinking is that this is onboarding and orientation. And yes, so if your student logs into their Bentley Connect portal, they will actually see the checklist right there. As soon as they log in, they'll be able to see that checklist, and that will give them insight into when are these tasks available for them and when do they need to be completed. The other space that I would encourage you to take a look at is in the new student guide. There is a month-to-month breakdown that gives some good information and actually directs you to the pages that correspond to the task. So if you're looking for more information, and then also in our June newsletter, which will be going out on June 1st, we will have a downloadable calendar in there that will highlight some of these live chats, the deadlines, and then also some of those new Falcon events. So if you are someone who likes to print it out and put it up on your refrigerator, you'll have access to do that. And then you can just kind of cross things out as they come along. So whatever format feels best for you to be able to see this visually or to have access to that, we will have a few opportunities for you. All right, let's see. So the next question is, submitted my English placement essay a few days ago and the check mark is yet to be completed. So do not worry about that. I understand we want the initial check mark really quickly, but that does take a few days to pop up there. So I would give it about a week, and if it is not checked off, then feel free to reach out to us at orientation@bentley.edu and we can go ahead and manually take a look at that. But if you've completed it, it will just be a matter of it checking off on that portal. So do not stress about it. But if you do not see it checked off in a week, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to take a look into that. Meal plan options. So what I would highly encourage is for you to join us for our live chat on living on campus, because that will be where we will have representatives from the residential center who coordinate the living and dining options for campus, and they will be able to walk through the different block plans that exist, what that is. There are some typical plans that are students who are living in more of a traditional residence hall style will have access to. For some of our upper class students, whether they live in suites or apartments, there are different options that exist. But for students who are living in that traditional residence hall in their first year, there are specific meal plans that they would have access to. All right. I know there is a question about a transfer student and the waiting list for residence halls. So what I would encourage is if we have any transfer families who are currently on the call, if your student is waitlisted for housing, what I would make sure is that they have emailed housing@bentley.edu to ensure that they are on the wait list. Just because they were admitted as a residential student doesn't mean that they're officially on the wait list yet. So please make sure that you have them email housing@bentley.edu. And then the residential center team will be providing updates to students who are on that wait list throughout the summer. We are going to work as hard as possible to make sure that we can provide that for students. But the first piece is to really make sure that they are actually on that wait list so that they can be getting those updates. While we're talking about housing, folks ask when that opens. So the residential center team will send an email out. Usually it's in the afternoon time. There is no benefit to completing it first or last. As long as your student is completing it by the deadline, that is the important piece. And so that deadline is in June. So make sure that your student is logging in and completing that. Like I said, there's no preference for completing it first versus last. We recognize that people are accessing that email through all different time zones. And so it's not about completing it first. It's about making sure that you're completing it by the deadline. And there are two pieces to that. So it is signing the housing contract and then also filling out the application. So the contract notes, yes, I am planning to live on campus and I'm accepting this. And the application is where you will fill out, your student will fill out that information about their preferences so that they can be matched up with a roommate. And what I will say is we will typically get questions from folks of, if my student doesn't have a specific person they want to live with, what do they do? So we have, our roommate mixer that people can come and connect with. We have, I know that admission has the Zemi platform where people can go on and connect. But I will be very honest with you that the majority of our students will be paired by the residential center, and that 9 times out of 10 is working just fine. If your student does have somebody that they want to live with, like I said, they can go ahead and put that information down, but the, majority of people are being matched up, and it really does seem to work out. It gives them an opportunity to connect with someone new. And then of course, if there's, ever challenges that come up, there's a wonderful residential center team that is staffed with resident assistants, residence directors, assistant directors. There's a whole cohort of people that really help to support our residential population. All right, let's see, what else do we have? And Caroline, feel free to jump in too if you want to answer any of these. All right. So there was a question about, is the financial aid office open over the summer? Yes, it is. So we have staff in financial assistance and in student accounts that are available throughout the summer. We will have a live chat with that team as well. So again, that's another area to be able to have, or opportunity to have, direct access to that staff. But yes, if you reach out to them via email or give them a call, you'll be able to work with them directly. What's important to note, something that we do get questions from family members on, is when Caroline mentioned the bill presentment is in July. In order for families to be able to see that, or if a family or support person is the one that is actually paying the bill, your student will have to set you up with third-party access. And third-party access is something that they can set you up with through Workday that allows you to be able to see those financial components. And we actually have a link that we can go ahead and put in the chat so that you have access to instructions on how to do that. Caroline, I don't know if you are able to pull that up and post it in the chat for folks. This website gives really great resources for how to set up third-party access, but also for students, the different ways that you use Workday. It gives some great instructions there too, so highly recommend that. Will off-campus students, can they request a meal plan? Yes. Yep. So if your student is living off campus, commuting, they can request a meal plan, and students definitely will, especially if they're planning to spend a good chunk of time on campus. It is a useful way to be able to know that they have direct access to food. So that is, an easy way for them to do that. We definitely have a few questions in here more around financial aid, financial assistance. And so what I can do is I'm going to actually find the financial assistance website and post it into the chat for folks too, because they have this will be in your June newsletter, but they have a wonderful FAQ on their website. And so I want to make sure that you have access to that right now, if that is something that you want to take a look at. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up quickly for us.
While you're doing that, I can answer the question on, is there a great chance of not getting a single room? So most of our new students do live in doubles and triples. So for the most part, our new students will not live in a single occupancy space.
Yeah, and I would say there is a like a roommate accommodation form that students can fill out and request. There's a request process. So if there is, a medical reason or a religious exemption that folks are looking for, you can always reach out to the housing team about that. But Caroline is correct. Most folks will live in doubles and triples. And I just put that link in the chat, and that's a great FAQ for some of the financial resource pieces. So please take a look at that. And we know that can be a very complex process. So please don't hesitate to reach out to the team. They are here to help to support you and your student. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And like I said, that live chat has really great resources. So please consider joining that as well. There is a question about when students will talk to advisors about classes to register for. So students will receive some pre-registration videos that they can view at at their convenience, and that will allow them to start to get some understanding as to what they should be registering for. And then in July, there will be optional advising for students to be able to connect with a member of our academic services team or one of the faculty members for those placements that they'll receive for writing or for math. So please make sure that your student is checking their Bentley email, because that's where they're going to see the information and the registrations to be able to sign up for those optional advising sessions. The other piece too is, let's say your student creates a schedule and then they're going back over it and they're like, oh, you know what, this actually, I think I need to adjust some things. During orientation, they will have the opportunity to meet with somebody in person to be able to make any of those adjustments that they might need to. So they'll have direct access to a team member on the Friday of orientation to be able to do some of those adjustments as well.
There are a couple questions on move-in day and at what time do the parent and family portions end. So students will move into their residence halls in the morning on move-in day, and then we will have lunch, a vendor fair, and convocation for students and their family members to go to. And then at the end of convocation, that is when the new student orientation program will begin. And our students will start saying their goodbyes to their family members prior to convocation, and then kickoff will start right after that.
Let's see. Again, there's another question about the payment process. I would encourage you to connect on the FAQ, because it provides all of the different payment options. There's a payment plan, there's a wire, there's a few different options out there. There's even cryptocurrency, if that's something that you want to engage in. There's also additional information in that new student guide. So please make sure that you're taking a look at that as well. There are some specific questions that folks posted around vaccinations and what is required. And so what I would ask is that you email our health center, because they will be able to work with you to let you know if there are any exemptions or if there's ways to access those once folks arrive. So if you have a specific question about your individual immunizations or what you might need to get, then please reach out to the health center. And with any of these questions, I know we're encouraging you to reach out to other teams. If you are not able to find their emails or aren't able to reach out to someone, please know that you can always just email orientation@bentley.edu and Caroline and I will help to connect you to those offices or to those teams. So please just know that, we are happy to do that. We have a wonderful person who joined us that's starting in the spring semester. And so hello and welcome. Thank you for being so eager and joining us tonight. We will actually be doing a whole onboarding and orientation for our students who are joining us in the spring semester. So you're welcome to join us at any of the things over the summer if you'd like to. But we will also provide opportunities for students who are starting in the spring semester throughout the fall. So know that you'll hear from us in October. You'll have your own new student guide. You'll have your own virtual opportunities, live chats, and own orientation program. So we got a lot of things packed in for you, but you're also welcome to join into any of the virtual pieces over the summer if you're interested, but just know that you'll have access to that in the spring as well. We had a question about some opportunities to meet some potential roommates. So we do have that new Falcon event that will be happening in June. And if your student is interested in participating in that, if they go to their Bentley Connect portal, at the bottom of their new student tab is actually a link to all of the events. So they can just go ahead and register for that roommate mixer there.
For the typical rough time to say goodbye to student on the 31st, convocation begins at 3 p.m. on that day. So around that time and then right after.
There's also a question about a checklist of what to bring. That is something that we will provide in our newsletter. So for students who are living on campus, we do have a checklist of typical items that people will bring to campus or can bring to campus. So you will have access to that. If you would like it sooner than the newsletter, feel free to reach out to us via email and we can send you that link. There's a question about computers, and what I would offer up is that Bentley has a really great program that provides some really great support for those who choose to order their computers through Bentley, but it is not a requirement. If your student already has a laptop that they feel comfortable with, I encourage folks to bring that. What I would encourage you, though, is in the email that was sent out from client services, they provide computer specifications. So I would make sure that, whatever computer, if your student isn't going through Bentley or through the Bentley portal, we work with a vendor. It's not directly Bentley, but I would encourage them to make sure that they are looking at the computer specifications to ensure that whatever their computer is or whatever they're looking to purchase will be suitable to be able to be utilized through the different courses that they might take, and all that information is there. So that's the only thing I would encourage is if you choose to get something else, please make sure that you take a look at that. We had an email, or I'm sorry, a question about if parents need to stay the 28th through the 31st, and no, you do not. And honestly, parents, not all families or support folks are even able to join their student when they move in. So there's nothing that is required of families on that move-in day, on any of those move-in days, if your students are participating in pre-orientation. So please just know, if you are unable to attend, that is okay. If you are here, then there are some of those optional pieces, but there's no requirement from the family lens with that, or no expectation. If, say, you are, traveling up because maybe this is your first time seeing the area, feel free to explore and enjoy, but please know that your student will be very busy and preoccupied through that Sunday. On the Monday of orientation, we offer a variety of optional experiences, but we also recognize by the end of the program that the students might just also want to take a moment to rest, finish unpacking, maybe go explore the local area on their own, and that's completely fine. So if you are planning to stay in the area, that is a day where they could reconnect with you and spend some time together. But really that Thursday, or even earlier, if your student's participating in one of the pre-orientation pieces, they will be very busy. So just know that if you are sticking around, it will be pretty tight. So all right, so I know that we were not able to get to every single question tonight. So what I would ask is if there were some questions that we weren't able to get to, please know that you can reach out to us via email. We are happy to, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, just so that way you can see our contact information. Please feel free to email us at orientation@bentley.edu. Like I said, Caroline and I will be checking that account regularly. So we're happy to, provide an answer for you or connect you with the appropriate team that can help to support you. If you'd prefer to give us a call, this is our number. Please feel free to reach out. Our office hours throughout the summer are Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. We provide a lot of information on Instagram as well, so please feel free to follow us. That will we'll do different updates. I know Caroline mentioned some of the different topics that we post on and themes that we post on as well. And then our website has some really great information for students and for families. If we're seeing that there's a trend in certain questions, we'll provide some additional information there as well. But I think the big piece in all of this is we are here. We are here for you. We are here for your students. We want to make sure that we can help you navigate this complex process. And we're so excited that you and your students have chosen Bentley. We know that we have some amazing students who are joining us, and we are just so grateful that you will be a part of this community. So please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you for spending some time with us today. This recording will be available on our Bentley YouTube, and we look forward to continuing getting to know you throughout the next few months and the next few years. Thanks so much. Take care.